In this chapter, I'm going to explain keying effects. Keying effects make parts of clips transparent. They do it using a variety of techniques. In this lesson, I'm going to give you brief looks at all of the keying effects. In the next lesson, we're going to do some hands-on work with a select number of keying effects. Following that, we're going to work with the granddaddy of all the keying effects called the Ultra Key effect. And finally, in the fourth lesson, we're going to do a really cool project where we have one actor appear in 4 different places in one scene. So let's get started by going to Working Files, go to Projects, and scroll on down to 1401, Understanding Keying. I've got a number of clips here set up such that we're going to take a look at all the various keying effects. To take a look at the list of them, go over here to Effects, click on Video Effects, and then open up Keying. There you go. And those are the keying effects in alphabetical order. You notice that some are called mats and some are called keys, but in the end, they all make parts of a clip transparent. We're going to go from top to bottom here, starting with Alpha Adjust, and then we're going to bounce around a little bit. So I'm going to go to this clip here where I've got a bunch of them applied. Go to Effect Controls. There are these guys applied to that clip. Alpha Adjust is just another way of saying opacity. Very much like the opacity effect here, but this has a couple more controls dealing with clips that have alpha channels, have areas of transparency in them already. You use this if you want to apply opacity before you apply some other effect. Here, opacity is applied last. So generally speaking, you probably won't use Alpha Adjust all that often, but there it is for your use if you want to have opacity early into the process. Next on the line is Blue Screen Key, and it's a Windows-only key. And if you're a Mac owner, you might go, hey, how come they left me out? Well, no worries. The Blue Screen Key, the Chroma Key, and the RGB Difference Key are all Windows-only, and they're all old key effects that really have very little use anymore. And from my point of view, Adobe could just drop them from Premiere Pro. But I'm going to give you a quick run through. These 3 guys here all do more or less the same thing that the color key does better. So if you want to do some kind of color keying, where you're picking a color and keying it out, the color key is probably your best bet in terms of the easiest one to use. The ultimate one to use is something called the Ultra Key down here. We're going to talk about that one in just a bit. That guy is a color key as well, but these guys are sort of simplified versions of the Ultra Key. So the Blue Screen Key looks for a very specific color of blue called Chroma Key Blue. If it doesn't find it, it just sort of takes a stab at it there. So it sort of removed the blue from the sky because it's close to Chroma Key Blue, but it's not. You can make some adjustments here to try to fine-tune it to reveal that clip below there. But at some point, it just doesn't work very well. And you can see that we're keying out areas down here that we don't want to make transparent. So the Blue Screen Key, not very effective. Chroma Key, same thing. Except the difference is that it looks for a color. You tell it what color to look for. You say, go find this color blue there. And then you need to expand on that blue by doing what's called similarity. And eventually you work your way down there a little ways. And notice how we're keying out colors here we don't want to key out. Again, it's not the most effective way to do things. That's the Chroma Key. I'm going to go down now to the RGB Difference Key. And the RGB Difference Key is a subset of the Chroma Key. It's even less than the Chroma Key. But it's the same process. You pick a color, same thing. You say what the similarity is, and then you begin to define the area that you're going to key out. There you go. It's kind of easy to use, but the color key works better. Turn that off. Now we'll go to the color key after all this, talking about it. Same process. You click on some color out here in the sky, then you start saying how tolerant you're going to be of that color, what the difference is going to be. It works, as you can see, very similarly. Notice that we're not getting a lot of keying here. Finds color a little bit better than the Chroma Key does or the RGB Difference Key does. You can see how it works pretty well there amongst the branches. So the color key is a pretty good key. And you have some other controls here too in terms of how wide you want to go. You can sort of expand the boundary or subtract from the boundary, that kind of thing. So that's a good control. And you can also edge feather. You can kind of make it soft around the edges so you don't have such a harsh edge around the blue there. So really the go-to tool if you want to remove color is the color key. But the ultimate tool, the best one, is the Ultra Key. Turn that one off now. Image Matte Key, I'll turn that on and nothing will happen. With the Image Matte Key, you need to put an image in it, and the image defines the area that will be transparent. So you go get an image, like clicking on this, let's say. Go track down an image by going to our Working Files folder, go to Other Assets, for example. It will bring in the sign. There you go. And now it defines the area that's transparent. Here we've got matte alpha, meaning that wherever there's alpha around here, it's transparent, showing the clip below. I can reverse that and say, inside the sign will be transparent, and the clip on top will be visible. Or instead of alpha, I can say luma, and it looks at the sign and says that, let's say, dark areas will hold the clip on top, light areas will let you see through it, or you can reverse that like that, back to the normal way, so that the white areas keep the clip on top from being transparent, make it opaque, Dark areas let you see through down to the blue. So that's the image mat. It works with an image. The thing is, you can't move the image around. It takes the size of the image that you put in there. If you use a video clip, it'll take the first frame of the video clip, so it's not that effective. A better key when you want to use an image like this is what's called the track mat key, and we'll look at that in a second. So the image mat key, not all that effective. The track mat key is really the way to go there. Luma key is a little different than the other guys because it looks for bright areas or dark areas. So we'll try it out here and see how it looks here, because there are bright areas here, as you can see. But it's kind of bright overall, right? So where do you kind of define what's bright or what's not so bright? It doesn't work that well here because the area is all kind of bright. Go to this shot over here, where we've got this scene where things are dark. I'll turn off the background for just a moment here. You've got this shot here that's got really dark areas. So if you use a Luma key here, you've got a background behind it, then you can see the background pretty well behind it. And it's not just dark areas that are transparent. You can reverse that. You can say, I'll just have light areas be transparent like that. Let the dark areas remain opaque. Your choice. So the Luma key is kind of interesting for working with areas that are dark or bright. Let's go back to this one now. Turn off Luma. There's non-red. Non-red is both Mac and Windows, but it sort of falls in the same category as RGB difference, blue screen, chroma key. It really is one of those guys that's kind of useless. It looks for areas that aren't red, and you can't pick the color. It just says, okay, we're going to try to make things that aren't red transparent. And so it looks for blue and green, which are the colors that are used for most kind of chroma keys in production studios, blue and green keys. But boy, look at that. There, it kind of just shuts it down. It's not that effective. It barely works there. See what that thing is? So the non-red key is another key that they could just have dropped and nobody would have missed it. But they keep these legacy keys in because some people have used Premiere Pro for so long, they expect to see them. But in my view, they could drop this one, they could drop this one, and chroma key and blue screen as well, and I wouldn't miss them. There's one more key that you'll probably never use, and that's the remove matte key down here. This is a technical key. You use this with clips that have been what they call pre-multiplied with a color, and you're probably never going to encounter clips like that. If you do, that's probably because you made them in After Effects and you exported them in a way such that they were pre-multiplied, and you're rarely going to do that. So this is a key that you can just take a pass on. Okay, we've covered these guys here, but I want to show you a few more here. There's one called the Difference Mat. If you go down through the list here, there's the Difference Mat. We've not looked at that one yet. Difference Mat is an oddball. It's really hard to work right. And I really doubt that anybody would be able to get it to work right unless they had very, very good control over how they shot their shots. Let me just show you how it's supposed to work here. I'm going to click on this guy here. I'm going to turn off the Difference Mat. What you do is you have a static background. And then you have an actor in another scene who shows up in that background. So up here, for example, we have an actor who shows up in this scene like that. So you have the background is static, and then you got somebody coming in. And what you want to do is you want to remove the background. You're telling Premiere Pro that with this background in mind, if you see something moving in it, keep the thing that's moving, but get rid of the background. Nice in theory, not so good in practice. Let me knock this opacity back down so it'll work. Here we go. Click this guy and turn this one back on. Now what it's trying to do is just find him and place him on this colorful background. Well, you can see that lots of other stuff shows up as well, and it's really, really hard to get this to just single out the guy. You can see how we're kind of blending things together there. It just isn't working that well. I can go over to the mat and show you what it says it's finding. So it's sort of finding him there, which is good, but there shouldn't be any black there. It should be just solid white wherever he is. And you can see more areas of white showing through here. So it just is really, really hard to make the Difference Mat work. I just can't imagine anybody using it on a practical level. So that's Difference Mat. Down on the bottom here is Track Mat Key. The Track Mat Key uses a graphic to highlight an area of the clip to make part of a clip transparent. You usually use it with a duplicate of the clip. So what we have here, let me just knock these guys down so you don't have to see everything at once. What we have here is this clip on the bottom. I've made it darker than it's supposed to be. The original brightness level would have been something like that. So I made it dark. Then I put a clip on top of it. Let me show you the clip on top, and I'll turn off the Track Mat Key. I made the clip on top of it a little bit brighter. Actually, it's normal brightness. And then I put a graphic on top of everything here, this little graphic that I made inside the titler. What I want to do is I want to use the graphic to highlight an area of the clip, pretty much like the Image Mat Key back up here, except here we can have the graphic move rather than just sit there as static. So I'm going to have this graphic be attached to this clip. I'm going to have this clip, which is brighter than, show up as a bright area on top of this darker clip. So I'm going to go back to this one, turn the Track Mat Key back on. You can see this little bright area there. And then I can have this graphic here follow the motion. We did tracking of motion in a previous lesson where we tried to put some text on somebody as they rode along on their bicycle. Well, you can do the same thing here. You can have this graphic track that motion, and then that little bright area will follow her.
There you go. Keep it.
See how that works? You can have the graphic get larger as she gets closer to the camera. There we go.
All right.
Very good.
And then quiet.
So that little graphic follows her around, highlight some action on the screen. There are all kinds of ways that you can use track matte keys, but this is one particular instance where we're highlighting something on the screen and we're making the rest of the area kind of a little bit darker, that kind of stuff. So that's a track matte key. Two more effects I want to show you, the garbage matte and the ultra key. So over here, we're going to look at a green screenshot. We've got the ultra key applied to it. This DJ was shot in front of a green screen, looked just like that. And we use the ultra key to key out the green. Now we could use the color key effect as well to key out the green, but the ultra key works better than the color key. It has more controls. So here's the ultra key, and you can see it has a lot more controls than the other guys have. Turn that on, and you can see we've keyed out the green screen. We've got a green background, but it also changes color like that, right? Like that. So the ultra key got rid of that background, made it transparent so you could see just the DJ. That's how green screens work. You've seen that happen all the time with weather folks. Let's go on down to this 4-way split sequence. In this case, we have the same actor, Bruce here, appearing 4 times in the same scene. And we use what are called garbage mattes to do that. Let me just turn off everything here so you can see them. Here's his first clip when he comes in. Just sits down there. And the next clip has a garbage matte on it. Let me turn off the garbage matte. So here's the next clip. And it covers him up, of course, because it's a full clip that covers up whatever's below it. But you apply a garbage matte to that clip. There's the garbage matte. And it makes this clip visible behind him. If I turn off the clip below him, you see that we made this part of this clip on top transparent by using the garbage matte, by pulling it over. If I pull this back, you can see we would have covered up the guy below it with this clip. We just removed this part of the clip to make that clip below it visible. Here's a clip on top now. Clip on top would look like this. He just sits there, but his clip would also cover up everything below it. We have a garbage matte in that clip as well. Garbage matte is over here. There it is. So we reveal this area of his clip so we can have these two guys be visible. And finally, the clip on top is a combination of garbage matte and green screen. I think you'll be amazed when you see this. I'm going to turn off the ones on the bottom for now. The clip on top looks like this with the keys not turned on. There's a big green screen there. We need to make the green go away. So we use the ultra key to do that. So now it's transparent. We need to make this part of the screen go away as well. So we use the garbage matte to do that. And we also need to get rid of this kind of edge around the green screen, this thing that holds up the green screen. So use the garbage matte to make sure we cover up that edge as well. So it looks like that. And once you do that, you can see everything below it. And so I'm going to show you how to do this 4 persons in one scene thing in the final lesson of this chapter. So that gives you a taste of all the different ways that you can use keying effects to make parts of a clip transparent.